Yo, Vikings fans, how are we doing today? Today's video, we're going to be talking about the media and how I feel as the Vikings are kind of getting disrespected or kind of flown under the radar by the sports media. I'm talking about guys like FS1, ESPN, a bunch of these major news networks. I mean, there's literally no conversation about the Vikings offseason. There has been very limited talks. The only really talks that we've gotten in the media was when Kirk was about to be traded to San Fran. But even the Pat Pete signing and certain moves we made, no one really cares, and I love it. And Vikings are being disrespected again. They're getting flown under the radar, as we can all predict. This happens almost every year. Anyways, I'm going to be talking about it. Media disrespecting the Vikes. Let's get into it. I remember making a video very similar to this last year when the Vikings were making all their moves. They were trading Diggs. I thought they had a really good chance to be something last year. And then, of course, all the injuries and the opt-outs happen. And, injuries and opt-outs can derail any football team, no matter how good you can be. And now the Vikings this year, I mean, if I was a person in the media and I was being unbiased and I was kind of looking for a sleeper team to kind of get in early and kind of before the hype train starts forming around them mid-season, I would really be looking at us. And I'll be looking at the Vikings mainly because of the fact that there is going to be a complete overturn on defense. If you look at our starters from week 14 and beyond last year, and you look at that starting 11 we put out on defense, we are adding damn near 6 to 7 different pieces to that defense. We are getting rid of Anthony Harris, who had a terrible year last year. Probably will be replaced by a safety drafted in the third. That's what I would assume. You're also bringing back Eric Kendricks. He was an all-pro the year before. You're bringing back Anthony Barr, multiple-time Pro Bowler. Bringing in Michael Pierce, an absolute run stuffer who has already gone to a Pro Bowl. A Daniil Hunter, who we know he's an all-pro level player. Then you're also signing a guy as Dalvin Tomlinson, who is one of the most young and up-and-coming run stuffers and interior pressure in the pass game that you have in the NFL. Then you're also bringing in a veteran corner as in Pat Pete to help mentor these guys. You're bringing in 5 to 6 quality players on just one side of the football. You're going to see drastic improvement. And listen, they need drastic improvement because last year the defense was frankly one of the worst in the league. But the point I'm trying to make is the people in the media, what are you looking at? I mean, you could really create some hype around this team. And I'm happy they aren't. I'm not saying like, hey, please, Colin Cowherd, Skip Bayless, Shannon Sharp. I want a segment on the Vikings. But just from me, like looking around and watching these shows, almost every day, and I'm just watching them. There's just not a single word about Minnesota. There's not a single comment on what the Vikings have done this offseason. I was going over and I was just looking over like kind of some of the best signings of this offseason, and I was looking at different websites, and I was watching a couple videos, and everybody's giving me like, oh, top 10 best free agent signings. And Pat Pete doesn't even scratch the surface of that. And I remember Cowherd did his top 10, and he put the Aaron Jones signing as a better signing than the Pat Pete signing to Minnesota. And it's just, again, it's the media just looking at stuff on face value. They just see a guy like Pat Pete who's coming down from statistically one of his worst years in Arizona, signing with the Minnesota Vikings, how they just think our defense, since it was bad last year, it's going to be bad again. That's how the media works. It's always off of what you have recently done, and that's a problem in the media instead of looking at the whole picture. And if you look at Pat Pete signing, I mean, you could say, like, okay, he's going to help guard Jefferson in practice, get him more quality reps. He's another great mind on that defensive side of the football, including guys like Harrison Smith and including guys like Eric Kendricks. There's just a lot of smart people on that side of the ball. And also, you look at this is the main reason why I think it would be a great signing, not just because the on-the-field stuff is you have 2 rookie corners now going into your second year who showed a ton of promise in the second half of the year. Now you have a guy who can come in and develop them. I mean, listen, this Pat Pete signing, we're going to look back on this, and this might be one of the best signings of the offseason. But again, nobody will say it right now because it's not a flashy signing. It's Vikings added a corner. Great. All right, moving on. Instead of understanding the impact that a signing like that can make. And then if you look on the offensive side of the ball, I mean, the Vikings clearly had to address the defense in this offseason, and they needed to get healthier. They needed to add more depth, and they did both those. But you really look at the offensive side of the ball, you could be like, oh, well, they lost Riley Reef, or they lost, that's really about it. The list ends at Riley Reef on who we're bringing back. Yes, you could consider Rudy, but we're not going to really see the impact of Rudy leaving because of guys like Irv and Conklin. But again, guys like Irv Smith and Conklin are not household names in the NFL. I would pick Irv Smith and Tyler Conklin over Kyle Rudolph on my team any single day right now moving forward. And that's completely out of just the fact that Rudy is getting up there in age, and Irv Smith and Tyler Conklin are young guys who are incredibly talented. They just haven't scratched the surface of the NFL yet. And even look at guys like Dalvin Cook still developing, Alexander Madison still developing, Irv Smith still developing, and of course the young stud receiver, where is he? He's not up on the wall right now, but Justin Jefferson. He goes into his second year. Kirk in the second year of this offense under the Kubiak scheme. Obviously, Clint's getting in there, adding a new ripple to this offense. I just can't wait for this moment when the Vikings are going to be 5-2 at week 7. And then everybody's going to be starting to realize, okay, so the defense is getting going again, and their offense is maintaining where they were last year. I just think this is a classic case of, Minnesota not being the biggest market and us not having the flashiest guys, I would say, the most eye-popping talent, even though we have names. I mean, Jefferson's a name around the NFL. Dalvin Cook's a name. Pat Pete's a name. Harrison Smith's a name. Danielle Hunter should be as widely known as a Bosa or a Watt, frankly, when it comes to the edge rushing side of the NFL, and real football fans know that. And then Eric Kendricks should be on the same level as a Fred Warner when it comes to his name value. Just because Fred Warner won the All-Pro in this last year doesn't mean he's automatically better than Eric Kendricks. I think people are really getting captured a prisoner of a moment when it comes to the Vikings especially, and on top of the fact that they're a small market, and on top of the fact that they have Kirk Cousins and Mike Zimmer, probably the most boring quarterback head coach duo in the NFL. They are never going to give you any oh, Mike Zimmer said this type of statements, or oh, I can't believe Kirk said this type of statements. They're going to give you the textbook answer. They're going to follow it by that. That's why I think the Vikings are getting disrespected. Honestly, I don't know. I'm just saying this to somebody in the media, you can tell this team is going to come back with a lot more talent than it did last year, and there's been mock drafts of them trading up to get Penei Sewell from Oregon. If they do that, you're looking at a really complete football team that could really make some noise. Obviously, will always come down to number 8, Kirk Cousins, and I know people will never be able to fully wrap their head around him being the guy on a football team, just because the media has completely destroyed his name and they just don't seem to watch film on him at all. Anyways, I feel like the media is absolutely disrespecting the Vikings, and I want to know what you guys think, because this has been a thought that's kind of been in my head. I hear all this talk on all these offseason moves, which team is getting improved and anything. I think the Vikings are one of the most improved teams in this offseason, whether it just comes, you're adding back 5 to 6 Pro Bowl caliber players on the deep. That just doesn't happen. When you have all these injuries, when you add these guys in free agency, you will have an overflow of talent take over this defense next year. So excited. Anyways, keep disrespecting us. I like this how it is. Keeps us on the radar. Zimmer loves the underdog mentality. We know that Zimmer is not good as playing as a favorite. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like on the video. Comment down below. Skol Vikes. Again, Vikes being disrespected. Wouldn't want to have it any other way. See you guys next time. Skol.